hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some freaking money. It's time for Bucket with Jo. Good morning, everyone. Jo here of SportsGrid. Let's get this freaking money today. That is right. It is time for Bucket with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV on X. I hope everyone's having a great start. Good morning to you. So we're going to go over the two games today. Short slate here for the ice, but plenty of opportunities to jump in. Now, yesterday, the Blues, what the heck happened with that game versus the Predators? The Blues put in their share, but we weren't able to get the Predators to put up any goals on the board, basically. That one ended under the total, 4-1 win for the St. Louis Blues. I tell you, I took it all the way up to 8.5. You guys, I was really feeling the Preds being able to score in that matchup, as well as the St. Louis Blues. Even with Jordan Hofer in net instead of Binghamton, we still didn't see that offensive production out of the Preds that we so needed in that game last night. Now, with two games on deck today, we're going to go over each and every single one of those games. So let's jump straight into it, you guys. Good morning to each and every one of you. Yeah, the Cup of Jo is rolling hot right now, so make sure you guys grab that Cup of Jo on the daily. Today's Cup of Jo will be out shortly. John, the Blues sunk me as well. The Blues, that was a heartbreaker yesterday. Let's get him, Chip. It's good to see all of you guys this morning, that is for sure. So let's jump into the Colorado Avalanche taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, I know after what we saw in that last game between these two, like just over a week ago, with Colorado getting that big win, I believe it was 7-4, 7-3 style win there. For those goals by the Colorado Avalanche, 2 were empty netters, 2 were on the power play. So I know you look at this total at 6.5, and it looks like an absolute gift from the sportsbook at plus 116. I'm very, very cautious of it because of how those 2 empty netters did affect that box score as well as the power play goals. You look at Toronto rolling in here. They're a plus 108 dog at home off that big win versus Calgary, where we did see that momentum shift on St. Patrick's Day when that second goal was pulled back. Calgary's goal was pulled back. It would have been a tied game. That momentum shifted. Toronto's been playing around with their lines, and if they roll out those lines again tonight that they rolled out in that last game versus Calgary, those lines work, so I expect to see that. They're going to have a hard time, though, here with Colorado. Colorado's so fast in transition. That's where we're going to see those struggles out of the Leafs in this game, and I do think they struggle to get it done, but now we have a Colorado Avalanche team rolling in on the road at minus 130. Both of these teams are on a first night of back-to-back, so we have to weigh that into account. I do think the under 6.5 is the right spot for that total. I can't bet it, though, at minus 142. And I also can't bet it because I have a lack of faith in Joseph Woll, who's expected in net tonight for Toronto. In the month of March, he's got 870 save percentage. So I can't trust him out there versus Colorado, who we know how elite this team is offensively. Now, Mackenzie Blackwood is returning back between the pipes tonight for Colorado, back from illness. So is he going to be 100% sharp as well? Lots of question marks when you weigh into this total. Now, the two teams do trend to the over when they play each other, 8 of the last 10 going over. But again, we look at Toronto and we look at their 5-on-5 metrics for expected goals since coming out of the All-Star break, and things have not been pretty. The only two teams worse than them for those expected goals outside of that All-Star break are the Ducks and the Chicago Blackhawks, you guys. So this is a team that they're not getting those shots, not getting the clear shots, not getting the high danger shots that we need for this one to go over. They have a weak kill, though, so Colorado on that power play should be able to convert tonight. The kill here of the Toronto Maple Leafs is just 67.7% since the middle of January. So many struggles here for Toronto, and you look at their struggles versus teams above 500, and this is where they're taking their losses. So they're not playing strong against teams that will be in the playoffs, and we know Colorado, one of those teams, sitting third in the Central. One of the hottest teams rolling in to this week of games, going 8-1-1 in their last 10. So they've been nice and strong, third in the Central again, winning their last two, coming off that great win versus the Dallas Stars on Sunday, 4-3 overtime win. So that's a hard spot off of a game like that with the Ottawa Senators on deck tomorrow. You know that this Eastern Conference is going to be Eastern Conference road trip is going to be brutal on them. Eastern Canada teams that they're going to be playing in. You're looking at them facing here Toronto, and then they're going to face the Ottawa Senators tomorrow, and then they face the Montreal Canadiens, I believe, in their next game up. So it's a really hard spot here for them, and those games are today's Wednesday, Thursday, and then a Saturday game. So by the time they get to Montreal on Saturday, you're going to see really tired legs out here for Colorado. Expect that speed tonight. Expect them to come out nice and strong. Mackenzie Blackwood to be decent between the pipes. And I do think Colorado gets the win, but at -130, I don't want to bet it either. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for that plus money. You guys know that is where I'm looking to make some money. It's not about going 5-1 on the night. It's about that return on investment. If we go 2-3 on the night and our return on investment is plus money, that is what we're looking for out there instead of a 5-1 and betting, $3 favorites out there. We're not getting any profit if we lose one of those 5 bets. So we're going to look for the plus money tonight. I do think we can see Mackenzie Blackwood stand tall, the defense of Colorado to come out nice and tough, and for this to be a lower scoring game for Toronto. I'm going to take Toronto's team total. And the beautiful thing about Toronto's team total, under 2.5 goals is plus 136. And I know some of you guys are sitting there going right now, look at them in that last game versus Calgary. They lit the lamp over and over and over again. And yeah, I know they did, but one really good game here for Toronto is not going to sell me on the fact that these lines and this offense is really producing at a high rate, where they're going to come against a Colorado team with a solid goaltender who is battling it out. Both of these teams are battling it out for playoff spots within their division. I understand that, third in the Atlantic for Toronto, but I don't like how they're playing teams that are above 500 on the season. I don't like how they're playing playoff caliber teams. I don't trust Wall, and I don't trust this offense to come out firing again tonight. So give me the Leafs team total under 2.5 goals at plus 136. Now, I think this will scare us a little bit in this game because I could see this first period being that higher scoring first period and then the lockdown coming in the second and the third. I wouldn't be shocked if we walk out of the first period 2-1 lead for the Colorado Avalanche. So the over 1.5 goals in the first period at -136, I think is a really solid way. I would put a half unit on the over 1.5 goals in the first period at -136 and a half unit on the Colorado Avalanche on the puck line in the first period, coming in at plus 150, I believe it is. That's only laying a half a goal because I do think they're up 2-0 in that first period, or 2-1 at worst. Now, if you think it's 2-1 at worst here, or 1-1 at worst, we know Toronto will be rolling with momentum, that both teams to score in the first period. I don't hate. It's coming in at plus 152. I'm just really hoping Colorado can keep them off the board in the first period, because otherwise this is going to be such a sweaty game for us out there riding the under 2.5 goals for the Toronto Maple Leafs in this one. So it's going to be a scary game for sure, but the inconsistencies Toronto shows at home, I just can't trust this team to get things done, even though they're coming off that big win versus Calgary. So when we look here at where we're going to go for some players that I think are going to be elite out there on the ice tonight, first, let's talk about Colorado. The last time they faced Toronto, we did see Nichushkin with the hat trick and an assist. Nichushkin coming in for his point. Let me just grab it here for you guys. It's juicy at -130. The power play is strong, and we know the kill since coming out of the break has been weak here for the Leafs. So Nichushkin for the power play point on that top power play unit is coming in at plus 300. I actually really dig that one. The goal is plus 200. Again, a hat trick and an assist in the last game versus Toronto, but Toronto knows that as well. They're going to try to limit him. I think it's going to be hard to limit Nichushkin out there. Now, if we're looking to place some line mates out there with Nichushkin, if we want to take his point and parlay it, Nichushkin on the top power play and on that second line. So on that second line with him is Brock Nelson, and he's on the second power play, so they're not on the same power play unit, but Drouin is on the top line and the top power play with Nichushkin. So if you look at Nichushkin and Drouin for a point tonight, Drouin's point coming in at minus 102, I think is a solid way to go. That's coming in for Nichushkin for a point and Druin for a point at plus 173. But I also think you could look at looking at that second line there of Nichushkin, Druin, and Brock Nelson. I really like that combination, you guys. All three of them for the point tonight, you're going to get at plus 310. So I'm going to play a half a unit on all three of them at plus 310 and a half a unit on just Nichushkin and Druin because they are on the top power play together as well, with Brock Nelson dropping down to that second power play. So Nichushkin and Druin for the point at plus 173, and Nichushkin, Brock Nelson, and Druin for the point parlayed together, all three of them at plus 310. Now, I do think outside of that, I would look at Nichushkin for the power play point at plus 300. So that is where I'm going. Lots of ways to go with that second line and top power play. The problem with the top line here is Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, and Martin Necas on that top line, like Cale Makar, top defensive pairing. You've got the other guys on the top line, is that you have to take three players to get plus money. So you could look at McKinnon, Makar, and Necas parlayed for a point, but you're only getting that at plus 115 because you're looking at all of these guys being like a minus 200 to get a point tonight. So not as much value on that top line. Is that top line scoring? Absolutely, they are. That top line is going to come out with a vengeance. Nathan MacKinnon has 16 points in his last 10 games. So I think if you're looking at that top line, you got to take 2+ points. Nathan MacKinnon has every ability to get 2+ points in this game versus Toronto. So it's definitely a really strong way to go. Cale Makar has 15 points in his last 10 games. So Cale Makar will be getting those shots tonight. He's going to come out strong versus Joseph Woll. So I think if you want to do a little bit of a sprinkle, just take a long shot, take Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon, 2+ points parlayed together and get some freaking plus money if that hits. But it is a long shot bet. Now, Austin Matthews looked great in the last game. I couldn't touch him, and I really struggle to touch anyone here from Toronto because I do think they stay under 2.5 goals. One thing you can do is look for the plus money if someone is scoring here for Toronto to make more sense. Now, Morgan Rielly scored a goal in each of the Maple Leafs' last 2 home games versus Colorado. So you've got that player who has shown at home versus his team, he's scored in the last 2 games, being able to do so. Morgan Rielly for the point plus 150. I do think that's a solid way to go, looking at Morgan Rielly for that point tonight. And then if you look at Max Domi for the point as well, he's coming in at plus 164. If you want to take a long shot, you can parlay both of them together. They're on the second power play unit together. They're parlayed at plus 415. I would rather, if I'm taking anything here for Toronto, maybe put a quarter unit on Morgan Rielly for a point, quarter unit on Max Domi for a point, because I don't want a full unit on this team when I think they're going under 2.5 goals. So it's going to be a hard one. You've got Tavares and Nylander on the same line if you want to do any parlays. If you really do think Toronto is going to be the team to get the win and go over 2.5 goals, that's where you want to look at these line combos. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner on that top line, top power play together. That's where you should see the goal and the assist. But again, I'm not having that faith in Toronto here. So for me in this game, one more time, it is looking at the Leafs team total under 2.5. That's coming in at plus 136. It's looking at the first period over 1.5 in the first period, as I think it starts off hot. That's coming in at minus 136, and the Avs on the puck line laying a half a goal in the first period. That's coming in right around the plus 150. Now, I do think both teams had the opportunity of scoring and it being a 2-1 first period, so that both teams should score in the first period at plus 152. I'm not going to be betting it, but I don't blame you if you do. And then looking at those line mates, and we'll go over and review those in the recap. So moving on to the Seattle Kraken, because we've only got 2 games. We've already talked about one for 13 minutes. So let's get moving here, you guys. I tell you, Druin and Nichushkin for the point. Hell yeah, let's go. Draw. You're going to take both to go to overtime. I don't hate that. You know, I think one of these games could go to overtime for sure. Vinny, let's go. Kevin, let's make some freaking money going with Colorado and Seattle. Seattle to pull off that upset would be great to see. Yeah, I got greedy on some picks as well, Hall, taking that Blues game up to 8.5 to the over. It hurt. It did hurt for sure. So let's not be greedy today, but let's look at some smart ways to bet this, get the plus money rolling into Thursday, because we've got a loaded slate out there. Kraken upset the Wild because you're fading the Wild. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Now, my concern with the Seattle Kraken tonight, Second night back-to-back, they've lost their last 12 in this situation. And then it's not Joey Decor. This Grubauer in his last two starts after coming back, he's been up and down, right? Grubauer in the last two starts in March, if you look at his numbers in March, you go, oh my God, he's got a 1.50 goals against average. He's got a high save percentage. I'm not buying it. Grubauer on the road has a goals against average of 4.41 on the season versus the Minnesota Wild in his career. He's got a 894 save percentage. He's got a 29.95 goals against average. He's gone 7-15-1 on the season, 9-7 in those games versus the Wild. I don't trust him here to have a solid night. Now, we know the Minnesota Wild, we've been looking at taking their team total to the under. It killed us versus the LA Kings as they got that empty netter. As live on Sports Rage, and we knew it was coming with that minute left and the Kings pulling their goaltender. It was a 2-1 game. Minnesota scored the empty netter, pushing it to 3-1, pushing us over the 2.5 goals. So it cost us, but Minnesota hasn't been scoring these goals. You look at them and you look at their recent games, and the lack of goal scoring with Kaprizov out of this lineup is crazy. But here on Group Hour, are we going to see the Minnesota Wild's offense really step up? Now, they are holding on to the first wild card spot here they're holding on to the first wild card spot in the Western Conference with 68 points. So look at this team. They really need this win here. They cannot fall to the Seattle Kraken tonight. But this is a Kraken team that I do think they believe that they can get a playoff spot. I don't see it happening. They've got 63 points in 68 games. They're basically sitting 5 teams behind the last wild card spot, which Vancouver has right now. And I'm just not seeing it getting done. So I do think we see the Seattle Kraken struggle on the second night of back-to-back. They got the big win versus Chicago last night, 6-2, but I don't want to take their team total. Something's telling me not to take their team total. It's coming in at 2.5 at -112 to the under. I'm going to look here at the Wild, and I'm going to look at the Wild to put those points on the board. Could Seattle win this 4-3? Absolutely, if they actually have a strong game out of the second night of a back-to-back, but it's hard to take them to do that. They're 0-12 straight up on the second night of back-to-back. They're 0-5 on the puck line on the second night of a back-to-back. So when they've gone into these back-to-back games, they've struggled to cover that puck line. So realistically, 4-2 win here for the Wild isn't out of the question. I do think the Wild open up offensively in this game. Over 3.5 goals here for the Minnesota Wild coming in at +120. Now, I think a lot of people, when they hear what I'm betting today, would have expected over for a team in the Colorado game and an under for a team between the Kraken and the Wild. And I understand why, because that is what we've seen recently out of these teams. But remember, Colorado and Toronto on the second night of back-to-back. These teams are pushing, and Seattle and the Wild, these are two teams that have been struggling to score. And I do think with weak goaltending here with Grubauer, we're going to see the Wild finally open up. Now, the Wild are a -162 favorite at home, +134 for the Seattle Kraken to pull off that upset, a total of 5.5. Am I taking the easy route out by just taking the Wild's team total? It kind of feels like it, over 3.5. Because I could see a circumstance where the Kraken win this for 5-4, and we still see the Wild go over that team total. I'm just feeling there's something off about this game, and we're going to see the Wild at least get those 4 goals. We'll see what we see out of the Kraken. It's really hard here looking at both of these teams to expect a lot out of them. The Wild are averaging 24.64 shots on goal per game in 60 minutes. 5th fewest in the whole league. And then when we look at the Seattle Kraken, this Kraken team's actually locking down on the defensive side. They're holding opponents to 26 and change shots on goal per night in those 60 minutes. So we're seeing the Kraken actually stronger defensively and the Wild being limited. But I do think the Wild just open up in this game. The last time these teams played each other earlier here in March, we did see the Wild win 4-3, and I could see it going over the total and going that way again. When we look at players I'm looking at here for the Minnesota Wild, and that's the only place I want to go because the Kraken, they just make me nervous in this game on the second night of a back-to-back. I do think if the Kraken score, they score early in this one with momentum off of the win last night versus the Chicago Blackhawks. So at that point, if I'm getting the Wild, if Seattle goes up first, I will be coming in live betting the Minnesota Wild if I'm getting them at plus 130. We're going to take a minus 160 favorite and drop it to like right around plus 130 if the Kraken are leading 1-0 early in that first period. And then I will be bouncing back on the Wild. But we'll see that no matter at which point the Kraken take that lead. And that's why live betting is so freaking amazing, you guys. So make sure you always join me on in-game live on the weekends for my show with Scott Wetzel. It's a lot of fun. But let's look at Matt Boldy here. Matt Boldy has taken the lead here for the Minnesota Wild with Kaprizov out of the lineup. 56 points on the season, 35 assists. We know Ryan Hartman has been great coming back from suspension out there. He's on the top power play with Matthew Boldy. So I do think looking at those two guys for their points tonight coming in at plus 115 parlay together, again, we're looking at the same kind of situation here as we do with Colorado with these two top guys so highly juiced. They're like a $2 favorite. So parlaying them together is plus 115. I think those points are coming out of those guys tonight. So if you want to put them on that top power play together, for a point tonight, plus 115. But otherwise, not really loving this. I'd look at Matt Boldy for the assist tonight, Ryan Hartman for the goal. But Brandon Montour has been fantastic for Seattle and someone you actually have to take note of. He has 38 points, 16 goals, and 22 assists. So we're seeing Brandon Montour getting those shots as well. He's been firing on goal. I actually want to see, he's got 195 shots on the season. I want to see if we can get a shots on goal for Brandon Montour and how high they're making us go. 4+ shots on goal for Brandon Montour coming in at plus 305. 3+ shots on goal for Brandon Montour at plus 112. I would take a shot on 3+ shots on goal for Brandon Montour tonight at plus 112. I think he can get those shots on the board. Now, if you're looking at Matt Boldy for his shots, again, the Kraken limit their shots and the Minnesota Wild are scoring on limited shots. So I'd be cautious with anyone from the Wild. You got to take Matt Boldy all the way up to 4+ to get any sort of value. So I wouldn't go there, but you are getting the value on the Seattle players for 3+ shots. That's Brandon Montour at plus 112. Vince Dunn, I don't hate either, 3+ at plus 162. So if you want to play Seattle players, look at those shots. If you want to play Wild players, you got to look at the points parlayed together or the anytime goals. Matt Boldy for the anytime goal coming in at plus 150 and Hartman at plus 320. I lean more towards Ryan Hartman for the goal at plus 320 and Matt Boldy at plus 150 for his goal. Yeah, Matt Boldy has been struggling. That is for sure. He's a clear shot favorite on the books to get it. You have a feeling Eberle and Montour will score a lot of points. Okay, that's a nice way to go. I don't hate Jordan Eberle here and Montour. So let's look if you just take their points together. Again, I'm staying off a total here for the Seattle Kraken, but let's look at Eberle and Montour. So Brandon Montour for his point alone tonight is plus 130. Jordan Eberle is plus 130 as well. So you guys, if you really want to look at both of those guys for their points tonight, I don't hate it for the Seattle Kraken because, again, they struggle on that second night of back-to-back, but some of their players have to step up. We're seeing plus 130 for both of them. So I would take them separately, but if you parlay them together, it is coming in at plus 244. So it is great value. I'm just going to pull up these lines here and let you know the line mate combination for them out there. Now we do have Chandler Stevenson, definitely always someone you want to circle here for the Seattle Kraken. He centers the second line with Eberle on that right wing of him. Now, when we're looking at Brandon Montour is on the second defensive pairing. So we do see him on that same lineup with Chandler Stevenson and Eberle on the ice a lot together. So looking at all three of them for their points together absolutely makes sense. And we're looking at that top power play unit, Eberle, Stevenson, and Brandon Montour on that top power play unit. So any combination of those three for the Seattle Kraken tonight for their points parlayed together is going to get you great plus money and definitely the way you want to look. So Matt Boldy, Matt Boldy is on Matt Boldy for his team. So he's not on the Seattle Kraken. You guys are making me lose my mind here. Out of the Dallas Stars, Matt Boldy is on. I was starting to look at him on that line mate, thinking I had Dallas up here. So Matt Boldy, I'm pretty sure Dallas lines. Let me just pull it up. he is sitting there. Is Matt Boldy not playing tonight, you guys? I'm not seeing him in the lineup tonight. So we'll have to watch for what is happening out there because he's not listed on the Minnesota Wild's line here. Unless I am let me just look at one more spot where he is going to be on the line tonight. It's one of those mornings, you guys. I hope everyone's having a great start. So, okay, so he is listed here. Daily Faceoff always has it listed, right? On the other one I was checking, they were not putting him on that top line. So right wing in the top line as always. So that is good to see him. He's going to be out on the ice, and he'll also be on that top power play unit as well still. So not much change. Stay tuned, though, to Toronto's lineups. I worry about what the Leafs are going to do. Their lines worked in that last game versus Calgary, rolling out those 4 lines. Like, they came out nice and strong, but we'll see if they're able to come out as strong. I just think they're going to really struggle with the speed of Colorado. I think they're going to struggle to stop Colorado in transition and spend a ton of time in their own zone trying to keep Colorado off. Now, you could look at Colorado's shots on goal, and I do think Toronto gets those shots on goal as well, but I'm expecting Mackenzie Blackwood to have a good day. Okay. I hope you have an awesome day too, Jeffrey. Thank you so much. So let's jump into the recap. It's amazing how I can make these shows even with only 2 games. Go 30 minutes, you guys. I talk too much. I will get to the recap. Let's go. The Colorado Avalanche taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Give me the Leafs team total under 2.5 goals at plus 136. Give me the first period over 1.5 goals for half a unit minus 136. The Colorado Avalanche first period puck line laying a half a goal at plus 150 for half a unit. But if you like both teams to score, it's coming in at plus 152. Looking at line mate combinations, player points tonight, I'm going to look at that second line. Nichushkin here for the points minus 130, a little bit too juicy. Power play point, though, at plus 300, great way to go. His goal at plus 200. He had a hat trick and assist in the last game out versus Toronto. Now, Nichushkin on that second line with Brock Nelson on that second line and Druin. They're all on the second line together. I like all of them for a point tonight. All 3 for a point coming in at plus 310. If you just want to look at Nichushkin and Druin because they're on that second line as well as on that top power play, it's coming in at plus 173. If you really want to look at someone here for Toronto, even though I'm taking them under 2.5 goals, Morgan Riley has the value for the point at plus 150 and Max Domi at plus 164 as well. You could parlay them together. They're coming in at plus 415. The Seattle Kraken and the Minnesota Wild. Give me the Wild's team total. Look for them to open it up offensively tonight, over 3.5 goals at plus 120. I'm going to look at Boldy and Hartman on that top power play unit for a point parlay together at plus 115. And like I said, if you're looking at Seattle, second night of back-to-back is a hard spot for Seattle. I don't trust Grubauer. Offensively, if they can step up, Brandon Montour has been so impactful out there for the Seattle Kraken. I would look at Brandon Montour for his point tonight, with Chandler Stevenson for a point tonight. And then, like you guys said, Eberle to come out strong. So looking at all 3 of those guys for their point is definitely a strong way to go. Like I said, I'm very cautious with the Kraken's team total under 2.5. I don't love it, you guys, in this matchup tonight. I think their offense will step up to try to match the Minnesota Wild. And the last time we saw these teams play, we did see the Wild win 4-3. I could see a very similar game unrolling that way. Now, the Wild have won the last 7 first periods versus the Seattle Kraken. So if you just want to look at the Wild in the first period, but with the Kraken on the second night of a back-to-back, I expect them to open this one up hot as well. So you guys, that's where we're going. I want to wish you guys all the best in all of your bets. And let's make some freaking money. Trying to find baseball to go with the draws. Yeah, there's some baseball that you definitely could be looking at. I'm going to wait a little bit here before jumping into anything else in baseball. I had that first game with the Dodgers. I had the Yurfee in the first inning. That didn't hit. We know that. But then I had the Dodgers team total over in the first 5. And thank God in that top of the 5th inning, they were able to come out and put those points on the board. I stayed off today's game. But you guys, all the best in all of your bets. Let's make some freaking money out there on the ice. Stay tuned for my Cup of Joe. It's been rolling freaking hot. And then the Madden Quickie over on the SportsGrid app. You want to check that out. There will be one posted there later. So all the best, you guys. We'll talk soon.